Ned's over. What's the
All
next?
right.
When the Ned stops working, or what's your next finesse for smallmouth that you're?
Well, we're kind of going in order of the season. Like I like that Ned early on. Springtime pre-spawn, it seems to be a really good bait. It's a deadly bait if you choose to fish beds. They seem to really hate having that thing standing up in their beds. But once all that's over, post spawn, I'll still. I mean, I'll throw the net all year long. But really, I start breaking out the drop shot.
Dirty, filthy Ned rigger.
Yeah. I start breaking out the drop shot pretty much post spawn for smallmouth, and go with it through the summer, definitely into fall too.
So yeah, so you're talking. You start to use a lot more drop shot.
Yeah.
Late spring into summer.
Yep.
Ned's still there just in case.
Yep.
What? So you said, is it still 10 pound to 8 pound? Right. That doesn't really change.
Yeah, day in, day out for smallmouth, that's going to be my deal is 10-pound braid to 8-pound leader. I have 3 different types of drop shots that I throw. On any given day, I'll have 2 on the deck, and then I can switch one over. So my 3 types are target casting drop shot. So this is where the forward-looking sonar really comes into play that we can touch on later. But basically, I'm scanning around the lake looking for a specific target to cast at, whether that's a boulder or even just a small group of rocks that's on a gravel flat or something like that. I am trying to put my bait within a few feet of that target.
You're looking for a small spine, a little ridge, a big boulder, a sunken tree, something very specific where territorial smallmouth or small group of smallmouths will hunker down on a specific target.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Any type of little variation in the bottom. I mean,
like an underwater dock for like to break it down for like layman's people.
Yeah, exactly like that. And you don't have to skip either, so it makes it easier. So that's drop shot setup number 1. Setup number 2 is going to be my dropping rig, I guess. I don't know what you call it, but the one I use to drop vertically down on them. Basically,
you're going to see a fish on your sonar, you're going to drop on it, and you have a separate setup for that.
Yep, I have a separate setup. Usually going to have, well, almost always going to have a heavier weight on it. A lot of times I'm trying to get a reaction strike out of them when I'm dropping on them. So I'll run like a 1/2 ounce to a 3/4 ounce pencil tungsten weight. It's going to be that's where I'll maybe go to a little bit lighter line too, because there's absolutely no reason why I'm going to get hung up with that fish on anything. So I'm not afraid.
Like on a weed edge, or you were dropping in timber, right? Usually you're dropping a rock, but usually you can like shock them to get them away from that rock pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. With the dropping on rocks, actually, I try and do that more backed off away from them. So that's where I'll use my target drop shot setup for that. And then
your drop setup is more I'm fishing my casting or I'm fishing something else, and the corner of my eye, I like reel up,
drop that one down. Exactly. Yeah. Or like on the second day of the TOC, I think we had those like calm conditions. I was driving around with my trolling motor looking for a mark to drop on one.
Sure.
So sometimes I'll do that too, where I'm just wheeling around like aimlessly around where I've caught them in the past and just looking for them roaming or suspended up, doing whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like especially on the, I mean, if you have really deep boulders, you can a lot of times pull up on them and drop on them. But yeah, you're usually better off, even a short pitch, maybe 10, 20 feet away, making that cast or that pitch to that boulder, than getting right on top of it and dropping on them. Sometimes you can be spot locked casting at that boulder, and all of a sudden you look down and go, oh, there's a different one. Or if you're on a spot that has a school or you're fishing a reef or whatever, and a lot of times when you catch a couple, you're going to pull that school towards you, and that's when you got to like especially keep an eye on that sonar, because smallies love to hide under boats. Like like even when you're chasing them shallow or fishing out deep, they like to have it over their head. Like they'll sit right under your boat. Like don't ever think that like, and that's I think a lot of times. In that, we keep referencing that TOC on the lax. Guys in the back of the boat wrecked their boaters
Oh yeah.
dropping straight down on fish that they saw. And I think a lot of it had to do with that. Like just fish pull under their boat and they would just be under the outboard and they'd see them on the back raft and they would just like whoop, just keep catching them. So
Yeah, they're such curious creatures, that's for sure. They do some strange things like that, and they do love going under the boat. Even when you're fighting them, they try and go under there.
So I'm just going to answer Frankie's question here. Yeah, absolutely, you can drop shot from the bank. There's no reason not to. Obviously, you're going to be casting more, not drop shotting, but there's no reason you can't cast. I've done it like at Monticello in the river. I mean, so there's no reason you can't drop shot from the bank. I would say the only thing is, yeah, you probably want a slightly longer leader the longer you're casting, just because like the longer you're casting, the angle of that lines. Maybe that's a good segue to like, do you do anything different? A little bit lighter weight when you're casting, but do you do anything with your leader length or your hook or the way you rig the worm when you cast versus drop or the types of baits?
Yeah, that's leads me right into my third drop shot setup, which is going to be my dragging rig, and it doubles as a drift rig when I'm smallmouth fishing too. So it's going to be a little bit longer leader. It's going to be a little quite a bit lighter weight than the one that I use to drop straight down on them. I usually adjust my weight to not get hung up in the rocks that I'm fishing around, because when I'm fishing for smallmouth, it's almost always around rock. And if I can get away with a 1/4 ounce weight, I'd say that's probably on my lighter end, but day in, day out, probably 3/8 ounce for a dragging rig is usually my standard. And I go pencil shape tungsten weights for almost all of my drop shots, except for that dragging style one. I'll switch between a pencil and a ball style.
Sure.
I feel like that ball goes through and over rocks, similar to like a football head jig would, where it just sort of bounce off the sharp crevices of a rock.
So is everything like nose rigged? Do you ever like, is there any difference in the way you rig worms, or what I mean, like when you have three, let's say like you have all three rigged up, they all have the same type of plastic on them? Are you changing that up based on like the presentation, or I mean, if they're biting a certain bait, or do you literally have that rigged 3 times, or how does that work for you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so basically, we're still just talking about smallmouth here. So my largemouth drop shot setup is going to be a little bit different. I throw a Texas rig worm on my largemouth setup more times than not. But on my smallmouth stuff, I really experiment with the plastics quite a bit. On my drag rig, I'm almost always using some type of swim bait. So like a little Key Tech Easy Shiner, that type of bait seems to be sort of my go-to for a drag rig, drag drop shot rig. And then my straight vertical drop on them, I like the KVD Dream Shot quite a bit. Yeah, those are good.
Maybe I know a little something about Finesse. Maybe I hold on.
You got it. Yeah. Those are money when you're dragging something along.
Is that pick a good color?
Yeah, it's a good color. Yeah, I like the silver flash. That's kind of my go-to, but just any kind of natural minnow color, I think, looks pretty good.
So for your drag, you like a small boot tail type swim bait a lot of times.
Yep, a lot of times that's what I'm throwing. And then for target stuff, I'll do anything from like a Dream Shot to wacky rig Senko, like a 4-inch. This TRD comes up again. I actually like nose hooking this on a target drop shot rig. So you just stick your little drop shot hook just through the nose into the bait, and it kind of has some flotation to it, and it seems to work really well.
You ever wacky rig that TRD?
I do. I don't like it as much because I feel like it's so small that I don't know that you get as much benefit out of the wacky rig, but to each their own, I guess, on that one.
I dabbled a little bit this spring with a pink one on a bed. So what about this little guy? You ever?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I do. Yep, I like the little baby tubes. Yeah, they look like a little craw, a little bite-sized craw, and that's.
I don't know how much people do this, but this is like a big thing in Minnesota. Like people, especially on the Lacs and a few other places, this baby tube, it's like a 2.5-inch tube. This one's been chewed on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my #1 bait for drop shot and smallies that at least I have confidence in, as a baby tube. Any kind of green pumpkin, kind of with copper, gold, purple fleck in it. That's where I That's what I like to do.
One nice thing with a tube too is if you use a cover shot. I don't know if you have messed around with these at all, Rich, but
I have
cover
some of
shot.
those kind of similar to like the Finesse Nico VMC and like the rebar hook, and that's kind of longer straight shank hook with a little keeper on it. Yep.
Yeah, so I guess it's mainly that little keeper for me that with that tube, you can actually rig the tube up over that keeper and have it come out towards the end of the bait. So if you're having fish that are a little bit negative or just kind of nipping at the bait, you can pick up some extra fish.
I didn't have one of those on, but I still do. Like when I fish that, like a lot of people nose hook it. I like to like thread it on that little straight shank hook, especially last Sunday I was kind of bed fishing. So, to have that just behind the tentacles, you are not going to miss anything that grabs that tube.
Yep.
Plus, it actually helps with the line. Like it runs really straight, whereas nose hooking can tend to like make it want to spiral, I think.
Yeah, you can get some nasty twists from that for sure.
So one guy says, sounds like tungsten only. Yeah, I mean, like you don't need tungsten. There are times when it gets super snaggy, rocky places that I will, especially in practice, will use some lead, but day in, day out, I do like tungsten. And is there any situations where you vary from that or?
Not really. I guess I've just gotten used to the feel of tungsten and the size of it. I don't know fishing wise if it really makes that big a difference, but I do like to have that feel. Or I guess I should say if the fish actually care if the profile is smaller on the weight, but I do like to have that feel. So when I am dragging it through something, you can definitely feel more with tungsten for sure.
I agree for the most part. I mean, but there are times maybe in like current situation or rocks or things like that, I will. And the other thing I like a lot is I like most of my drop shots. I like matte black.
Oh yeah.
You care, but like I personally have more confidence throwing a matte black weight than anything else. How do you use shiny ones? What do you do?
I just usually use the shiny ones, although I think the blackout ones are kind of neat looking, and I could see how maybe you might turn a fish off with a shiny one. Or actually, I've seen them do this when I'm bed fishing before, is they'll actually nip at the shiny one, the shiny drop shot weight, and I haven't noticed them doing that with the black ones. So maybe for bed fishing.
I think you get less pikes biting your weight with a black one than you do with a shiny one. But after this tungsten and $2 or $3 drop shot weights, the blackout might save you some tungsten if you have a place that has pickerel and pike in it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we kind of covered as far as I could just give some. I definitely smallies, drop shots. Yeah, dream shot. The baby tube is a big one for me. Small Senko's wacky rigged.
The baby fluke. Baby fluke's a big one for me too. I definitely like that one on lakes that have the more minnow type forage, or.
And then you stick to the shad colors at that point, or.
Yeah, I like a white. I don't know why in that bait. I don't typically throw white that much on anything else, but it seems to work well for smallmouth. I don't know. And then also I haven't talked about this much yet, but smallmouth really seem to hate chartreuse, and they get mad and they just want to kill it. So chartreuse is a big color for me too.
And that's outside of beds. You still use that other times?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it seems to be when they're aggressive. It seems to be a good bait for me, or a good color, I should say.
So not necessarily when the bite's tough.
Right.
If they're chomping, like you're literally saying, if I put a neon green bait down there, they can see it from 15 feet instead of 10 feet away or 20 feet away. Instead of it just gives them much more opportunity to just zone in on it and come rushing at it from a greater distance.
That's it. It puts off a glow that they can see from a long ways away, and yeah, something about it, they just go nuts.
Yeah, definitely shadow bass, and you can definitely get some matte black nail polish and try that if you don't repurchase your tungsten. So we kind of covered drop shot. What's next on your list of secret weapons for finesse smallies?
Another post spawn one, like right after they're done spawning, I like to get on the flats and throw a fluke. This is a little bit different setup, I think. I learned it on a Zona's Awesome Fishing show where. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that drop shot clip from a previous episode. If you want the full thing, link in the description below to see the full stream and all the smallie tips, largemouth, drop shot, and everything we covered with Kent Middlestat. Hope you enjoyed that. Just a little clip. If you want to see the full thing, link down below.